My name is Susan Redfield, and I'm the current president of the Long Beach Qingdao Association. And I'm here to welcome you all to what we anticipate will be a really outstanding and very interesting program. There are a number of dignitaries who are with us today, and each of them will be introduced individually as their presentations arrive. But I would like to acknowledge that we have with us the Consul General in Los Angeles for the People's Republic of China, Mr. Shang Ping. I'd like to welcome Mr. Shang specifically. We do have an amazing program scheduled here today, and I want to acknowledge David Griffith and Anne Huser, who have worked tirelessly for many weeks to pull this together. David has brought together such an impressive group of corporate leaders, academic leaders, and government leaders to update us on this important and vital topic. And what's especially extraordinary, in my opinion, is that he has found East and West representatives from the corporate sector, from the government sector, from the academic sector. And so without further ado, I'd like to let David take it over as chair and pass the baton. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan, for that introduction. And yes, we are very excited about our program today. We had thought that at some point we would have a follow-up to our 2016 program where we first introduced the concept of US and China partnerships and environmental protection. And we have been knocked back a little bit by COVID. But right now we're at the 5th anniversary 5 years ago in October 2016. We did hold that first luncheon where we featured 2 companies. As Susan refers to East and West, West would be our representative company here in Long Beach, our electric bus company, or transportation company, Long Beach Transit, had contracted with a Chinese electrical vehicle manufacturer, BYD Motors, to roll out operations for their first 10 electric buses. And at that time, we issued an award and to each party for their partnership in furthering environmental protection for the citizens of Long Beach. So I don't know if Anne is there. She was going to show our, a picture of us representative of that meeting and also the award. So we'll see if that pops up on the screen in a second.
There it is.
There it is. So that is the award. You can see BYD Motors and also Long Beach Transit and a handshake there. And we had a very good meeting with Ken McDonald, the CEO of Long Beach Transit, and also with Stella Lee, the president of BYD Motors. And so this year we decided to revisit those 2 companies as well as some additional companies and businesses and academic institutions that we knew were working on climate change and environmental protection issues. And so as Susan had indicated, we do have additional parties this year. And we're also pleased to have as speakers for today the same 2 Long Beach Port and City representatives who participated in our 2016 luncheon. Dr. Noel Hasagaba and Vice Mayor Rex Richardson. And we have asked their counterparts from the Port and City of Qingdao to participate, and we will hear from them as well. And we do have very good news for the citizens of both cities that in the past 5 years, both Long Beach and Qingdao have made significant progress in moving forward towards their respective zero emissions goals. So I would at this time like to introduce Dr. Noel Hasagaba, who is our first speaker. And Dr. Hasagaba joined the Port of Long Beach in 2010 as an executive officer assisting the harbor commissioners. And then approximately 4 years later, he became the port's managing director of commercial operations and chief commercial officer. And then finally in 2018, he came into his current position, which is Deputy Executive Director, Administration and Operations for the Port of Long Beach. So I'm hopeful that Dr. Asagaba is ready in the wings there somewhere to talk to us.
I am. Good morning,
Okay.
David, and good morning
Thank
to
you.
all of you, especially our dignitaries who join us. It's always good to be among old friends, even on a Zoom meeting. So really pleased to be back and join our Vice Mayor in meeting with all of you. I'd like to thank David and the Long Beach and Qingdao Association for inviting the Port of Long Beach to participate in this annual event. Our relationship with this association in Qingdao goes back many years, and we are proud of not just the sister city relationship between our respective cities, but also our sister port relationship with the Port of Qingdao. Just to put this in context, each year we trade over 400,000 metric tons of commerce with the Port of Qingdao. That's a lot of Qingdao beer and so many other things. But you know, the global supply chain crisis has generated a lot of interest in ports and goods movement. And it wouldn't be a stretch to say that we are getting more attention than ever. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, because there is a connection between that and today's topic. Supply chain disruption leads to congestion and backlogs, and these inefficiencies don't just create delays and drive up costs for consumers, but they also impact the environment. And here in Long Beach, we are using every tool at our disposal to help our port partners literally around the clock to move containers out of our terminals to make more room for the containers aboard those ships that are waiting at anchor, which as of this morning at 6:50 a.m., we're down at 28. And by the way, this peaked at 86 just a couple of weeks ago. And a common question we get is, what is normal? How many ships at anchor are normally there? And the answer, my friends, is 0. But thanks to a new protocol put in place by the Marine Exchange in partnership with the Pacific Maritime Association and the Pacific Maritime Shipping Association just a few weeks ago, the number of ships at anchor lined up off our coast has seen a significant reduction from 86 to 28 today. Now, these are the kinds of actions that we're taking in collaboration with our partners to get the supply chain up and running again while mitigating environmental impacts. And we have also taken other bold actions, such as activating vacant land inside the port to provide immediate relief to our terminals. Since last fall, for example, we have repurposed more than 130 acres of vacant land for the temporary storage of containers. And all of this acreage helps to keep containers inside the port and not in our neighborhoods in our community. We have also expanded our hours of operation to incentivize the use of night and weekend shifts. This expands capacity, but it also spreads container movements across the day. We have also used our tariff to announce a fee to incentivize the prompt evacuation of containers sitting in our terminals too long. When containers pile up in our terminals, it keeps ships at anchor and it triples the amount of work it requires to move them out. And so by moving containers out more quickly, we create more space for containers at the terminal, and that drives up efficiencies and productivity. To date, we have seen significant progress. The containers targeted by this fee are down 41%. In fact, the response has been so positive that we have yet to collect the fee. But this is not just what we do. This is who we are. The Port of Long Beach has a distinction in being the world's first green port in the world. Since 2004, we have continually raised the bar when it comes to our sustainable practices and greening port operations. And our blueprint has been replicated in ports around the world. Today, it's not uncommon to hear of green ports in other regions, including Europe, Asia, Latin America. Our original green port policy evolved into our Cleaner Action Plan, a joint effort with our sister port, the Port of Los Angeles. And the results have been remarkable. When you look at every category of emissions that we track, we have seen significant reductions, 90% reductions in DPMs, 62% reductions in NOx, 97% reductions in SOx, and all at the same time that our cargo volumes have increased 21%. In fact, in 2021, for the first time, the Port of Long Beach has achieved all of its 2023 emissions goals outlined in the CAP, despite moving record volumes. This mission has become increasingly important as ports and cities around the globe plan for climate change and sea level rise. On this, we are collaborating with our city, on the Climate Adaptation Action Plan. And at the same time, we continue to collaborate with the Port of Qingdao on environmental issues, a partnership that dates back to 2010, when our respective ports signed the 2021 Environmental Exchange Agreement. And we are proud that our sister port in Qingdao has risen to the challenge and developed their own environmental programs under the banner of Blue Economy. We're also engaged with the broader global ports community as we learn from each other on the best way to mitigate port-related emissions more quickly. Here in Long Beach, zero emissions is in our line of sight. The latest iteration of our Cleaner Action Plan puts us on track to zero emissions cargo and handling equipment by 2030 and zero emissions trucks by 2035. As of today, 16% of all the equipment on our terminals is already zero emissions. And we've made the first step towards zero emissions trucks just a couple of months ago. Our Board of Harbor Commissioners approved the collection of the new clean truck rate in the amount of $10 a TEU starting April 1st, 2022, with full exemptions for containers hauled by zero emissions trucks and limited exemptions for containers hauled by new low NOx trucks. In Long Beach, for example, we will provide flexibility for the use of funds during the initial implementation, allowing incentives for both low NOx and zero emissions trucks in order to maximize near-term emissions reductions and support the South Coast Air Quality Management District in meeting their attainment goals in 2023. So no later than January 1st, 2024, it is proposed that all of the Port of Long Beach's funds will also be directed to zero emissions only trucks. And I want to thank the support of our Vice Mayor, Rex Richardson, who also serves on the AQMD board. He has been a strong supporter of the ports and has helped to guide us through this process. Finally, I want to talk about the historic and bipartisan infrastructure bill, the $1.2 trillion package that includes $17 billion for ports and waterways. This is by far the largest amount of funding the federal government has made available for ports like ours. We are encouraged, and I think all of us would agree with this supply chain crisis, this could not have come at a better time. But it also complements what the Port of Long Beach has been doing for years. Over the last 10 years, we've invested $4.5 billion in our infrastructure. And we are on track today to invest another $1.7 billion over the next 10 years. And two of the major projects that bring this topic together, port operation sustainability, is our Pure Beyond Dock Rail Support Facility that will shift movements of containers from truck to train. That's important because it's more efficient, it's faster and cleaner. But the other big project is the completion of our Long Beach Container Terminal, LBCT, the greenest terminal operation in North America. And this terminal, we believe, is the model of what the future may look like, especially when it comes to greening port operations. So again, thank you, David. Thank you, Long Beach Qingdao Association, and all in attendance for the opportunity to address you today. I wish you all a fruitful panel discussion, a successful program, and a joyous holiday season.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asagaba. I really appreciate the port's people and assistance to our organization. You've been a sponsor going back, I think, all the way to the beginning. And I do want to also commend you on the relationship you have with the Port of Qingdao. I know in 2017, we celebrated with you the 20th anniversary of the sister port relationship in a ceremony here in Long Beach. And next year, which is, again, another 5-year anniversary celebration. 2022 will be the 25th anniversary of the two ports. So I don't know if there's any planning involved, thinking towards that goal of getting together again, but obviously our organization would love the opportunity to participate in that event and celebrate that relationship. So thank you so much for coming on today and taking away some of your time. So. We are going to go ahead and proceed to our next speaker, and he is Dr. Asagaba's counterpart at the Port of Qingdao, the Deputy General Manager, Zhang Baoa.
Honorable Consul General Mr. Zhang Ping, Vice Mayor Ms. Richardson, Friends from Port of Long Beach, ladies and gentlemen, hello everybody. Deputy General Manager of Qingdao Port Group. It's my pleasure to discuss with you on port environment protection and sustainability. Qingdao and Long Beach established state-port relationship in 1997, and we have maintained strong relations since then. Port of Long Beach has launched a number of green port projects to improve air and water quality. On behalf of Port of Qingdao, we give our warm congratulations on your great achievement. We hope that Port of Qingdao and Long Beach will have more exchanges on the sustainability, including green and smart development. Commenced operations in 1892 as the fifth largest port in the world and the second largest port for international trade in China. In 2020, the cargo throughput exceeded 630 million tons, and the container throughput is entitled the Green Port of Asia Pacific and China's 4-star green port. I'd like to talk about some of the environment protection projects at Port of Qingdao. First, developing the green transportation mode. We have developed 21 inland ports, launched 62 serial train services, constructed 1,000 kilometers pipeline, and first sky train for container transportation to realize more diversified, cleaner, and stereoscopic. The clean mode of transportation for air Second, launching campaign against pollution. We take measures like water springs, using crossed band and covering for dust separation of dry cargo. Terminals and vehicle sidings for all products are equipped with vapor recovery system. Shore power are available for all berths. Pollutants like sewage and solid waste are all collected and properly handled. Clean energy system. We have 4 RNG stations across the port and have started the construction for hydrogen filling station. The container terminals have completed oil to electricity conversion for over 100 RTGs. We start to use electric reach stacker, forklift, and dump truck. The hydrogen condition truck and the RMGs are at oil electric tugboats, and we are speeding up the replacement of oil machinery and equipment with clean energy. Fourth, building the hydrogen plus 5G automated container terminal. We designed and developed the fully automated terminal. All the equipment is driven by electricity. Its RMGs are powered by hydrogen. 5G technologies are applied to the terminal's operation. The terminal is awarded prize for outstanding achievements in global automated terminal development. With 52 moved power, it's the global highest efficiency. Uphold to environment protection to develop the world-class green port and better the economic growth of the region. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to Deputy General Manager Moa. And we would like to also mention to our consulate friends that if they would please send our appreciation directly to the staff of the Port of Qingdao for their participation today. We'd like to introduce our next guest, the Honorable Rex Richardson, Vice Mayor of the City of Long Beach. And I first met Mr. Richardson back in 2016. He had already served for about 2 years as the youngest city councilman in the city's history when he was elected in 2014. And he's now in his second stint as the vice mayor of Long Beach. It sounds like he has expanded his portfolio of responsibilities. He's involved with a number of very significant activities on behalf of the city. And sounds like also, as Dr. Asagaba mentioned, he's involved with the AQMD and air pollution issues in the city, which are very important. So I would like to introduce Vice Mayor Rex Richardson. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Griffith, and to the Qingdao Sister Cities Association. It's great to be with you once again. It was great to hear from my friend, Dr. Hasagaba. He certainly outlined all the incredible work that's taking place at our ports here in Long Beach, demonstrating tremendous leadership. And I'm proud to offer and bring welcoming greetings to our counterparts in our sister city of Qingdao. A lot has changed since our last conversation in 2016. We've seen significant changes to the way that we live, the way that we interact with one another, the way that we communicate, the way that we work, the way that we purchase things. And one thing has certainly emerged, and it's that the role of cities has changed. And with all the challenges ahead with respect to our changing climate, our changing economy, and the need to advance equity, the role of cities is more important now than ever. And cities are stepping up all around the world to take on things they've never had to take on before, from investing into strategies to improve our climate, economic strategies like basic income, and a whole host of innovative ideas around the world are really being driven by cities. Long Beach is no different. Long Beach has a tremendous responsibility to our region and to the international community as a port city. And we also have a responsibility to our planet and to the youth of the future. And we're leaning into that. Since our last meeting, Long Beach has adopted a local climate action adaptation plan, and not many cities have their own local climate adaptation plan. This adaptation plan puts Long Beach on course to achieve carbon neutrality by 2045, which is indeed 5 years ahead of the city of Los Angeles. Focusing on our climate and preparing for climate change, it's a daunting task. It requires that we change a lot of things that we take for granted, from how we power our homes and our businesses and our city, how things are built, what we consume, how sustainable we are. But it's an essential job to do. So the plan that we have really outlines five distinct goals. One is to lower our carbon and climate resilient buildings and neighborhoods. So that means making investments into how we use less energy or cleaner energy, particularly solar power and other renewable energy sources. Number two is we're investing in safe and adaptable infrastructure. That means we know that the climate is going to change our environment. We know sea level rise is real. We know that urban heat island effect is real. When you have certain communities in Long Beach that are farther away from the coastline, we'll have a swing in the temperature upwards of 10 to 15 degrees. And so we have to be prepared for things like drought and flooding. The third goal is to protect our natural systems. And that's incredibly important for us. Next, to have a healthy, resilient, and ready population. We mentioned urban heat island effect. That means, maybe we should ensure that schools and community centers have efficient HVAC systems and cooling centers. Maybe it means building pools not so close to the beach, but in the hotter areas of town. And then lastly, we want to minimize our carbon footprint and ensure that our land use is smart and sustainable, and make sure that we think about ways to process our waste in a more sustainable way. And so through all of those goals, we will achieve carbon neutrality. Now, we know that that's not enough. We know that it will take resources to advance this strategy, this plan. Last year in 2020, Long Beach adopted Measure US. It was a ballot measure that was adopted citywide that taxed oil production in our city to accelerate our climate action and adaptation plan. So those revenues generated from taxing the oils produced in our city can go to help make our city more resilient. We also, air quality is significantly important. Last year, the Southern California Basin and Los Angeles had some of the poorest air quality in the past 2 decades, while at the same time, we have some of the strongest, most stringent rules in history. So how do we see more rules and more regulations, yet we still see high levels of pollution? Well, what we're seeing is the impacts of climate change, particulate matter accelerating climate change, wildfires in California, and hotter temperatures are making our air quality poor. And what that means is we have to escalate and accelerate our strategies to make sure we clean our air. And so last year, I joined the South Coast Air Quality Management District Board with the goal of being a part of the solution. And, we have taken some significant steps. We placed a new rule, indirect source rule on warehouses that essentially holds warehouses accountable to greening their fleets and ensuring that they're attracting cleaner trucks to those warehouses. A second thing that we did was we implemented the strongest refinery regulations in the nation, ensuring that refineries have to capture and clean all of their emissions on site. You can't have a cap and trade situation. You have to capture and clean all of your emissions on site. And what that does is it protects communities closest to those refineries. Those are just a few examples of some of the things that Southern California is doing and the Long Beach continues to lead on. The last thing I'll say is that, Dr. Hasagaba mentioned it, our partnership with the ports, incredibly important. The ports have significant contributor to our international economy, and we want to keep it that way. But that means we have a responsibility to our environment and to make sure that we're leaning into leadership. And so right now we're in the process of negotiating a landmark agreement between the South Coast Air Quality Management District and the Port of Long Beach to help codify the way that we're going to partner together in the years to come to ensure that we ensure that the resources are there to make our fleets cleaner and to make sure that we have a plan and we're implementing our plans to meet our air quality attainment levels in Southern California. And so the goal is to have a zero emissions future, but that can only happen through deep partnerships and leadership from our ports and all of our leaders. And so I'm happy to be a part of today's luncheon. I look forward to our continued partnership with Qingdao. I've, in my role as immediate past president of SCAG, I had a chance to visit China only once, but it will not be my only time, my last time. I plan to go back and make sure that we continue to have this productive relationship and make a meaningful difference in the lives of people who live here in Long Beach and in Qingdao. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor Richardson. On behalf of the Long Beach Qingdao Sister City Association, I want to thank you and Mayor Garcia and the rest of the city council for really involving and working, strategizing, and implementing climate change protection policies. The comprehensive plan that the city enacted earlier this year is impressive. It's really a model for the rest of the country. And we know that a lot of climate action is taking place at the local level, at the city level. We've got some issues with our federal government doing what should be done. Fortunately, we're back in the Paris Accords. But I think at the city level is where we can do a lot, and you are certainly at the forefront of that. So we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Our next guest is the Vice Mayor of Qingdao, Xu Qingguo, and he has not been able, because of his busy schedule, to put together a presentation, but he has been gracious enough to send us a written statement, which I am authorized to read. And so I would like to go ahead with that. Honorable Consul General Zhang Ping, Vice Mayor Rex Richardson, Dr. Noel Hasagaba, ladies and gentlemen and friends, greetings from Qingdao. At the outset, on behalf of Qingdao Municipal Government, I wish to congratulate you on the business luncheon event and express my appreciation to friends from various sectors for your support to an effort in promoting the sister city ties between Qingdao and Long Beach. Long Beach is our first sister city in the Americas. Since 1985, there have been many exchanges of visit between the two cities. We in Qingdao have had a number of old friends, such as Ms. Susan Redfield, president of LBQA, and Dr. Mary Barton, ambassador of friendship of Shandong province. The sister city relations have grown with a huge support from the Chinese Consulate General in Los Angeles, the leadership of our two cities' governments, and the commitment of many old and new friends. Together, Qingdao and Long Beach have carried out fruitful interactions in business and trade, ports education, culture, and youth exchange. Environmental sustainability is one of the most talked about topics. Qingdao is committed to achieving ecologically friendly green development. We keep improving the city's industrial structure, energy mix, modes of transport, and agricultural input in a pro-environment way. We have also made many great efforts in ecological restoration, sponge city development, rural environment improvement, and clean heating programs. We are proud to be named the first national pilot in green urban development in 2020. Environmental sustainability is also an important part of our city's interactions. The Port of Long Beach once shared its experience in green port development, which was very helpful to us. Going forward, we will continue to work closely with Long Beach Qingdao Association towards a new chapter in the sister city ties with more cooperation in green development, business and trade, cultural and people-to-people exchanges. I look forward to welcoming our Long Beach friends to Qingdao when COVID-19 is over. In closing, I wish you good health and every success. Thank you. And we also would like to express our appreciation to the Vice Mayor. It's been a while since we have been to Qingdao. We visited as an association back in 2014 to celebrate the International Horticultural Export there, where the city of Long Beach won the gold prize for their garden that our local people put together. So Qingdao, I'll do a little commercial for the city, is a beautiful, beautiful city. If you go to Shanghai, it's not that far from Shanghai. You can, take a side visit over there, and maybe you'll put it on your next visit, Vice Mayor. So at this point, I'm going to turn this program over to our special moderator and host, Clayton Doobie, who's the executive director of the USC US-China Institute, a person who has an amazing breadth of knowledge about China and the US-Chinese relationships in many different fields. So very pleased to have Mr. Doobie assist us today in presenting our panel and moving on with our panel discussion.
Thank you so much, David. And thanks to all of you who have carved out time to be with us today. And, you know, one of the wonderful things about Zoom and these other technologies is that we're able to escape a bit the prison of distance. And so we're able to gather despite maybe being in so many different places. And through the magic of video recordings, we're able to overcome time differences. And so we've had the Vice Mayor of Qingdao join us. I have such admiration for this organization, for the Long Beach Qingdao Sister City Association. I think it has served magnificently. I have had the privilege of visiting Qingdao a while ago, the first time in 1983, a couple of years before the organization was created. But it's worth noting that the association actually predates the arrival of a Chinese consulate here in Southern California by a couple of years. And so we really need to salute the role of organizations like this, the role of subnational groups, businesses, nonprofits, and individuals in facilitating communication and cooperation across the Pacific. This has been so vital. And if we had time, we could celebrate all of the different ways that these organizations have come together. I love the point that Vice Mayor Richardson was making about cities being where it happens. Cities, you don't get to just talk about grand schemes and policies. In cities, you have to deliver the goods. In cities, you need to make these things actually happen, from the social justice concerns to the environmental development priorities, and what? Trying to improve both the economy and the environmental conditions in the city. Qingdao is a great tourist destination, all sorts of recreation, all sorts of beautiful places to visit, just as Long Beach has those same characteristics. And to improve the livability for people who are there all the time, and to improve the attraction for visitors from within China, from visitors from within the United States, and once we're flying again across the Pacific, we need to focus on these things. And so we're really fortunate to have both municipalities as well as these engines of growth and technological advancement represented in the ports being core participants today. A little bit later, we're going to get to hear from Consul General Zhang Ping. That's going to be a terrific pleasure. And we are somewhat constrained for time, and we're a little bit behind schedule, so I'm going to try and move things along. We invite, though, everybody who is participating today by joining us to go ahead and submit questions if you have questions from some of our speakers. I can't promise that we'll be able to ask those questions, but we'll try. We'll try. So each of you, if you want to submit a question for any of our speakers, please use the chat function. And my advice, make it short and make it a question. So be sure to go ahead, and if it's directed at a particular individual, to make it clear who you hope will be able to answer that. So we have quite a lot to cover in this panel, and we're going to begin by looking at Long Beach Transit. I don't have to say anything about Long Beach Transit to the wonderful citizens of Long Beach. I appreciated Vice Mayor Richardson's kind of dig at being ahead of the city of Los Angeles by 5 years in one measure. That's important. And being ahead in bringing in electric buses, which is something that we'll be learning about. So we're going to have a video presentation from Ken McDonald. And Ken was part of that group in 2016, noting that Great Achievement Award. He has been here in Long Beach now for a number of years, and he has headed transit systems for almost 2 decades. Previously, he directed the transit systems of the city of Los Angeles and the city of San Francisco. He's trained as an electrical engineer and clearly is a manager of technology. So let's stop for a moment and watch the video presentation from Ken McDonald.
Oh, wrong thing. That's the wrong presentation.
And this one is BYD.
So not all aspects of remote conferencing are simple or easy. And we want to celebrate the small army of people who have brought this particular gathering into being. We'll be watching that video in just a moment, but hopefully we'll be able to see and hear Ken McDonald talking about Long Beach Transit, which is, of course, really important within the city of Long Beach, and has been an early consumer of the technology produced by BYD. And so we'll be getting to BYD in just a moment.
So we may have to move forward.
I think Clay, why don't you
Yep.
go ahead with BYD's presentation? And we'll
All
come back.
right.
Yep. While we locate that. Thank you.
Yeah, while we have, okay, so I guess there's a hunt underway for Ken McDonald's presentation. We'll get that momentarily. But one of the things that Long Beach Transit has done is that they helped to launch BYD into municipal sales of its cutting edge technology for electric buses. And so we have a video that you've already been teased on for BYD. But before we show that video, let me read a statement from BYD, which includes the local, the BYD North America president. So BYD is the world's largest manufacturer of both rechargeable batteries and battery electric buses, with more than, and listen to this, 10,000 buses in operation around the globe. There are BYD battery electric buses running on 6 continents. BYD has sold more than 500 electric buses in Southern California, including 24 to the city of Long Beach, 130 to the city of Los Angeles, and 85 to the city of Lancaster, which is, of course, home to BYD's bus manufacturing facility. BYD's green mission is to solve the whole problem, to try and address all of the issues associated with climate change. And it has made the company an industry pioneer and leader in electrified public transportation. BYD, as many of you know, is headquartered in downtown Los Angeles, actually just up the street, a mile and a half or so from USC. And the company assembles buses at its manufacturing facility in Lancaster, California. I think there are about 1,000 folks working at that plant. And so Stella Lee contributed to this press release by saying, "We are proud to have our buses on the streets of Long Beach." She is the president of BYD America, and she says, "Bringing jobs to Southern California while making the air cleaner is one of the ultimate win-win situations. And we thank the Long Beach Qingdao Association for their tradition of honoring partnerships that protect the environment and grow the economy. So this is a statement that we get here from BYD. And in addition to putting buses on the streets, they've also built out a wireless charging facility and a number of other things. These are remarkable products, and this would be a great time to take you to the factory and see a little bit about BYD. Can we do that?
Yes.
So by a show of hands, you can raise your digital hand if you like, through using the reactions button. If you've been on a BYD electric bus, please do raise your hand, raise your digital hand by clicking on that reactions button. Thank you, Patricia. So she's been there. Wade's been on the bus. Anyone else?
Clayton, I'm going to suggest that we move to the presentation by Ship and Shore, and we can come back. We want to keep on schedule for the Consul General's talk because he has time limitations. So if we could move the Ship and Shore, and then we'll come back to the videos.
Yes, and we'll have these videos posted on the website, the LBQA website as well. So we can, everybody at their own time can come back and circle back to this.
That sounds like a plan. So thank you so much. And we are fortunate to have, we have the head of the port, we have municipal officials, but they contract with folks to make things happen. And one of the companies that's been a real leader in this technology on both sides of the Pacific is Ship and Shore Environmental. And Anush Oskayan, and I apologize if I butchered the name, founded the company more than 20 years ago and heads the company. She is a chemical engineer by training, worked in industry for a number of years before launching Ship and Shore Environmental. Very much involved in not just organizations within Long Beach, but also in Orange County, support for Youth Symphony and things along those lines. So Anush, please go ahead. And again, I apologize for whatever harm I've done to your name.
You did very well. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I am very happy and proud to be a company in Long Beach. And once I found out about this organization, I was blown away, just the same way that many of our participants do not know about Ship and Shore Environmental. I had no idea about the organization as such, because in a very quick summarized version, what we do at Ship and Shore Environmental is we do design, engineering, and manufacturing of all different types of anti-pollution control systems for all industries, small, large. Not only they're all manufactured here, and we employ a number of engineers as well as people that are working the manufacturing side, but we actually send all of these systems all around the country. And a number of years ago, as a result of the demand for air pollution control in China, I had an opportunity to go back and forth to China. So for about 6 years ago, we started manufacturing anti-pollution control systems for China in China. Therefore, we are very familiar with what needs to be done and what needs to be addressed. And I was very happy to have Vice Mayor Richardson address all the points that I really wanted to bring up, because I also have had an opportunity to be part of the South Coast Air Quality Management District in the backed board, which is best available control technology that is required in the Southern California basin, as well as a lot of other places. So our goal has been, how do we put in control equipment in various facilities and make it not only sustainable, but have a lot of that coming back to the plant in terms of energy. So they utilize the pollution as a source of energy, and try to make them look into becoming more sustainable, greening, and not having it to become such high cost, such that people would walk away from addressing their pollution needs. So that has been a major effort that we have been involved with for over 21 years now, all here out of Long Beach. And we do hope to continue with all that has been mentioned. And I'm absolutely thrilled to share that we have been working on a number of designs and engineering on ways that we can have barges to go out to the Long Beach port, as well as other ports, to clean the emission that is being generated from various containers that are coming to the ports. And that has been in the works. So in a nutshell, we are a company in Long Beach that addresses the pollution problem, not only locally and in California and all over US, Canada, China, and we have recently launched our offices in India. My biggest statement has always been, air pollution does not understand and recognize any geographic boundaries. It travels from one place to the other, and no matter what, people elsewhere will see the aftermath of the PM that is generated because of California fires, as well as the pollution that is created in any region, any country, will eventually, all as humans living on Earth, will have to address it. I was surprised to hear that LA pollution has gone up a lot more, because it has gone down tremendously from 20 years or so ago. When you flew into LAX, you could not see but 5 feet in front of you. We've done a great job. South Coast Air Quality Management District has taken the leadership position literally worldwide to address and come up with designs that addresses most stringent rules. So I know we're running out of time. I can go on forever, but I would be more than happy to share a quick presentation, and I'm delighted afterwards. And I'm delighted to be part of this group. I would love to get to know some of the people we have on the panel more, as we really, if I may say, as we really are the ones with our boots on and are doing the work to make sure that we have a cleaner air to breathe. We address all the issues that are out there, and we really are trying to address the carbon neutrality that we're working on, whether it's coming from the ports or inland and any other area. I'm happy to address any questions that may come up later, or just by going to our site, shipandshore.com, we're happy to address some of that. And lastly, all these years, people kept asking me why the name Ship and Shore. So I'm so happy that after 21 years, our name finally matches all we're trying to do for the ships coming in and handling it on the shore. So I think you do need to have me get off and have other panelists to join in, unless there was something you wanted me to address.
That's really perfect, because you've highlighted, of course, how what happens in Long Beach, what happens in Qingdao, what happens in other places doesn't stay there. That pollution knows no boundaries, doesn't abide by borders or customs regulations or anything of that sort. And developing affordable solutions for these things is of the utmost importance. And we have coming up in just a moment, somebody who's an expert on the subject of launching these businesses and doing these kinds of things. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But I want to remind folks that we are a little bit pressed for time, but we're still trying to bring a lot of different actors in this to the fore. I have a note that the Long Beach Transit video is ready. And so why don't we go ahead and show that? We won't show the BYD video. We'll just go ahead and jump up to our scholar presentations from Qingdao University of Technology and Cal State Long Beach.
Good day to all who are assembled here today. I am Kenneth McDonald, President and CEO at Long Beach Transit. First, I would like to thank David Griffith and the Long Beach Qingdao Association, an international sister city affiliate, for the recognition of the partnership between Long Beach Transit and the bus manufacturer BYD. Long Beach Transit, as is BYD, is committed to expanding zero-emission buses here in Los Angeles County and especially in the city of Long Beach. I am extremely proud of the work that our employees have done to propel LBT towards a 100% zero-emission fleet by 2030. By the end of 2022, we would have 44 battery electric buses in our fleet. So we are well on our way to meeting the agency's long-term goal. Thank you for recognizing the work that LBT is undertaking to make its organization a zero-emission fleet. Have a wonderful and productive event today. Thank you.
And thanks to Ken McDonald for sharing those experiences and views with us. We are unfortunately not going to be able to show you that BYD video, but it will be available, links to it will be available at the Long Beach Qingdao Association website after today's gathering. We're going to shift now to the role played by academia. And so I'm sitting here at the University of Southern California with the US-China Institute. We pay a lot of attention to all of these different players, the business players, the governmental players, and of course, our colleagues in academia. And we're fortunate today to have presentations, short presentations from Professor Shui Qing from Qingdao University of Technology and from Professor Wade Martin here in Southern California at Cal State Long Beach. And I'll say a little bit more about Dr. Martin in just a moment. Professor Shui works in the School of Environmental and Mechanical Engineering. He was educated at Fudan. Then he went to Korea for training at the Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, and then to the National University of Singapore. His focus is on wastewater, but he'll speak more broadly. He's been recognized within the province as a Taishan Young Scholar and expert. So now, if we could hear from our friends in Qingdao, from Professor Shui Qing. One of the things all of us have learned as a consequence of COVID-19 is to be patient. I think we need to turn up the volume a bit.
sustainability. This is a hot global topic for decades. Everything's environmental crisis occurred due to pollution. Take China as an example. Behind our big economic success these years, we are putting more and more efforts in environmental protection. Because in China culture, harmony is always considered as an essential element for happiness. Therefore, in my opinion, sustainable development can be considered as a negotiation, also called harmony, as hates. In Qingdao, we have a more frequent term called ocean sustainable development. Just like Port Long Beach, Qingdao Port is among one of the busiest ports in China. And beyond that, these days we are doing much more ocean industrial explorations, including seawater desalination, ocean biopharmaceuticals, ocean farming, ocean power, and so on. Regarding their great GDP contribution, almost everyone knows the importance of ocean environmental protection to the sustainable development of Qingdao. Now, talk about 1902, QUT is a multidisciplinary university, and the Department of Environmental Engineering, as a first batch in China, possesses well-established research platforms, facilities, and over 100 of great faculty members. As a non-profit institution, we have two major tools to deal with environmental sustainability. First, we produce environmental scientists and engineers through education and international collaboration. We have established long-term cooperation with renowned universities and institutions globally. Graduates are making their contributions in the field of environmental protection. Second, we play a role in technology advancement through research activities. Let me show you two examples. First, reverse A2O process invented by our chief scientist, Professor B, is being applied in hundreds of municipal wastewater treatment plants. Secondly, our research achievements is going to serve the coming Beijing Winter Olympics for wastewater recycling in the Olympic Village. Well, to end this short speech, I'd like to wish our sister-city relationship may bring about more and more fruitful cooperation in the future. Thank you. All the best to China and USA.
And thanks to Professor Shi for recording that and sharing some of those stories with us. It's quite remarkable, of course, that these technologies are not just being dreamed up at schools, but they are in the ground, they are in the systems, and will be helping to cleanse the water, to manage the wastewater at the Olympics coming up in February. Here in Southern California, we're fortunate to have Professor Wade Martin teaching at Cal State Long Beach, where he's a professor of economics, and he directs the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. He served as the editor-in-chief for Contemporary Economic Policy, a leading academic journal. He has put together several books, edited several books, and he has been a consultant for governments, both here in the United States and abroad. His specialty is looking at risk analysis linked to business development and how local communities can establish policies for sustainable development. Professor Martin, sorry.
Thank you for the introduction, and I'm very pleased to be here and be part of this great lunch event and part of the Qingdao Long Beach Sister Cities Association. I'll try to make my remarks quickly, although it's always a challenge to ask a professor to be brief. So I will do my best in that way. What I will talk about is more how the university is committed to supporting these relationships and helping to develop the skills and talent necessary to implement a lot of the initiatives that are critical to a sustainable future. First, at the Institute, we are focused on supporting people with ideas, innovative solutions to all of the challenges that we see. As has been mentioned a couple of times, there are the challenges of dealing with global pollutants at the local level. So we want to try to encourage entrepreneurs that are creating these solutions to think big, think of their solutions that go beyond the boundaries of the city of Long Beach, that are more connected to addressing the challenges that are global. We provide programming that is based upon the idea that you need a sustainable business model and not a business model that just looks at, are you going to make a profit or not? So looking at your business development from the perspective of people, planet, and profit, or the triple bottom line, is an important component that we bring to all of these businesses that we work with. And our educational programs at the university, we have targeted programs like there's an MBA program that is focused on sustainability and disruptive technology. We all know that to achieve the goals we desire, it's going to take a concerted effort in technology solutions and trying to bring that disruptive technology to the market in a successful way. We also know that businesses need management skills and governments that understand policy and what are efficient policies. So we also have a Master's of Science in Sustainability Management and Policy. So there are many different programs at the graduate level that help train individuals to make a difference with businesses like Ship and Shore, and with governments like the South Coast Air Quality Management District, or other agencies. I worked at EPA, so I know the skills needed in government to regulate these industries. So it is important that they have these broad-based skill sets for a more efficient future in dealing with these complex and interdisciplinary problems. And the undergraduate level, we have bachelor's programs in environmental science and policy. We have engineering focus on environment that's integrated, not just, okay, you're an electrical engineer, but you're an electrical engineer that understands the important role you play in solving environmental problems, et cetera. So these how we integrate environmental considerations, sustainability considerations that include the community as well as the environment into the solutions is important. At the university level, we were a charter signatory to the Climate Leadership Network. We signed the carbon commitment in 2011. We have a resiliency commitment that was signed in 2016. In 2014, we wrote the university's initial climate action plan. And in that climate action plan that the president of the university signed, we committed to be carbon neutral by 2030. And climate neutrality, we defined as not just scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, but including scope 3 emissions, which is our biggest challenge because as a commuter campus, those scope 3 emissions were over 50% of our climate footprint. And building on what Ken McDonald said, as we green the public transportation network in Long Beach, that will help us on campus meet our goals as well, as many students take public transportation to get to campus. We also have a sustainability tracking assessment and rating systems program the so-called STARS program, which documents how sustainability is integrated into our curricula at all levels, that we are not just saying we are committed to these commitments, but we are actually implementing policies, implementing training at all levels, at all dimensions of our academic programs. And finally, at the university level, we have at first created a task force on sustainability, and realizing that a task force sends a signal that it is a task-driven initiative, that has evolved into 2 years ago establishing the Presidential Commission on Sustainability. So that Presidential Commission on Sustainability looks beyond the borders of the campus. We have representatives from the community serving on that commission, as well as faculty, staff, and students engaged in that commission. So there is a real commitment on campus to make a difference and to implement these changes, not just agree that they are important changes. At the Institute, we work with very sustainably focused companies and startups such as Evo Electric, which is a battery technology company, Closed Loop Plastic, which is generating 3D filament from recycled plastic. We also host a climathon hackathon that looks for solutions to different climate challenges. This is a global hackathon that we take part in during Sustainability Month. And as I mentioned, everything we do is connected to supporting startups and innovators with a triple bottom line philosophy, that you do need to think about the environment, the natural world, and you do need to think about the communities in which you operate, as well as making a profit for your business. And I'm happy to continue talking about all the great things going on at Cal State Long Beach and our partnerships in the community. We definitely work with Noel at the port to make sure, take a tour of the port. We have one scheduled for the upcoming early next year, and working with Ken at Long Beach Transit to better understand what's going on there. We've done an economic impact study for them. And obviously Vice Mayor Richardson has been a supporter, and we've worked in the North Long Beach community to try to address many of the climate issues and challenges that businesses face throughout the city. Having said that, I will stop there. Any questions I'm happy to answer, but I know that time commitments are short. But we're very proud to be part of this Sister Cities and exchange programs between our universities, and supporting in whatever way we can.
Wade, thank you so much for that sweeping presentation of the many ways that Cal State Long Beach and the institute that you head, as well as the Department of Economics and the Business School, are working to integrate thinking about sustainability throughout the curriculum, training future business leaders, training future government officials, future teachers. All folks have a role to play in this. And the California State University Long Beach is a leader in this regard, as has just been demonstrated. I'd like to highlight that the Long Beach Qingdao Association participated recently, just a couple months ago, in a ceremony where a letter of intent was signed between Qingdao University of Technology and Cal State Long Beach to further collaborate and foster exchanges between the students, faculty, and staff of the two universities. Now, friends, thank you all for being with us. I know that we've run into a few challenges but we are now with Consul General Zhang Ping. It is such a pleasure to welcome Consul General Zhang to the Long Beach Qingdao Association microphone. As a personal note, I want to extend a personal thank you to Consul General Zhang for in 2019, before everything fell apart thanks to COVID-19, the Consul General visited USC on 2 occasions and engaged in vigorous conversation with students, faculty, members of the general community. One of those occasions we hosted, and you can watch at our website, where Ambassador Zhang spoke with Ambassador Bader, the former national security advisor on Asia. And that is a very lively exchange dealing with tough issues, the territorial issues, human rights issues, economic concerns, all of these different things. Ambassador Zhang is one of China's great diplomats, great representatives, serving the People's Republic of China, currently in Los Angeles. He came to head the consulate here 4 years ago in November 2017. He's previously represented China elsewhere in the United States, in New York, at the embassy in Washington. He's represented China in Australia, has worked in Vietnam, and has played leading roles at the Foreign Ministry Bureau on North America and Oceania. Ambassador Zhang, thank you for being with us. Please take it away.
Thank you, Professor Dubey. So nice to see you again. And thank you so much for your kind words and introduction. And I enjoyed the conversation, the visits to USC, and I look forward to the next visit as early as possible. Respected Vice Mayor Richardson, President Redfield, and event chairman, Mr. Griffiths, distinguished panel members and members of Long Beach Qingdao Association, ladies and gentlemen, friends. Always, it's a great pleasure to attend the events hosted by LBQA. And I enjoyed very much the occasion and exchanges with our friends in the association. And today, it gives me great honor to join our friends at its annual luncheon and talk about China-US cooperation on climate change and trade. Climate change is a common challenge facing mankind. It bears the well-being of our future generations. With the increase of world temperatures and more irregular weather patterns, there is no doubt that climate change is real. We see a looming crisis is coming toward us, which gives us a sense of urgency to address this challenge. It's time for international community to take concerted actions. China upholds the concept of community of life for mankind and nature, and has made building a beautiful China as a major objective in fully building a modern socialist country. China has adopted green and low carbon growth as an important part of its new development paradigm. We put a high priority on ecological conservation and environmental protection, and has made unprecedented efforts to promote ecological civilization. Through years of hard work, the country's ecological system and environment has seen improvements. In 2020, China's carbon emission intensity was 48.4% lower than that in 2005, which means China had more than fulfilled its commitment for achieving a 40 to 45% reduction in carbon intensity from the 2005 level by 2020. The drop in carbon intensity translates to a total reduction of about 5.8 billion tons of CO2 emissions. Last year, China's electric power generated by non-fossil energy has reached more than 1/3 of the total electricity consumption. China has led the world in photovoltaic capacity additions for 8 consecutive years. Also, the number of new vehicles have reached 6 million in total. Here we have BYD, who is now leading the industry, both in China and perhaps in the world, with its entrepreneurship and advanced technologies. China has taken an active part in global climate governance to assume its international responsibilities in line with its national conditions. China has announced that it will strive to reach the peak of carbon dioxide emission before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality before 2060. To achieve this goal, China will scale up its nationally determined contributions by adopting more vigorous policies and measures. China is accelerating the formation of policy systems on carbon peaking and carbon neutral. The action plans for carbon peaking before 2030 has been released. A series of implementation plans for specific industries and sectors and safeguard measures will come out in the near future. China has also pledged not to build new overseas coal power projects. At the World Leaders Summit of COP26, President Xi Jinping delivered a written speech in which he put forward 3 important propositions. That is, upholding multilateral consensus, focusing on concrete actions, and accelerating green transition, which has contributed China's solution to global climate governance and demonstrated China's sense of responsibility as a major country, as well as its firm determination to work with the international community in addressing climate change. As the largest developing country, China still faces multiple challenges in economic development and a huge task of improving people's living standards. As China's economy continues to grow, its energy demand will see a continuous increase. China will make the world's biggest cut in carbon emission intensity in the shortest time frame in history. To achieve carbon peak and carbon neutrality is a systematic project with unprecedented challenge and needs others' efforts. But China means what it says. Once the promise is made, we will make sure it delivers. Some people may say that China is now the world's biggest carbon emitter. Since China cares so much about environment, why can't China do more on carbon reduction? This is because China is still in a different development stage and has different national conditions and capabilities. China is still the largest developing country in the world with a population of 1.4 billion. The issue of unbalanced and inadequate development still stands out. Its development needs are different as compared with developed countries. Meanwhile, the historical responsibilities for climate change are also different between developed and developing countries. the increase of China's carbon emission only started from the beginning of this century, while Western developed countries already had a 200-year history of carbon emission. The US used to take the bulk of the global emission. Though China now has the biggest number, yet quite a big percentage of the increase is due to the carbon emission transfer from Western countries, along with the economic globalization, which means China, by providing Western countries with manufactured goods, is supporting a comfortable lifestyle at the cost of increased carbon emission. However, even with that increase, China's capital carbon emission is still less than half of that of the United States. As a matter of fact, developed countries generally set a time frame of 40 to 70 years to move from carbon peaking to carbon neutrality, while China only gives itself a much shorter time frame of 30 years. China is doing to its greatest extent within its capabilities. We believe while global actions are needed, yet a fair and reasonable approach is essential. The principle of common but differentiated responsibilities is the cornerstone for global climate governance. Every country should be allowed to determine its contribution and does its part to its best of its ability, striking a balance between climate change response and livelihood protection. Developed countries need to shoulder more responsibility and honor their commitment to helping developing countries with financing and technologies. China and the United States share extensive common interests in climate change governance. Cooperation on climate change is a positive asset of China-US relations. China-US cooperation has played an important role in leading the international efforts on climate response. In 2015, China and the United States brought about the successful conclusion of Paris Agreement on climate change. Since the year, the two countries' special envoys, following the consensus reached by the two heads of states during their phone conversations, have held two major face-to-face talks in Shanghai and Tianjin and engaged in intensive consultations in London and Glasgow. As a result of joint efforts, the two sides released the China-US Joint Glasgow Declaration on Enhancing Climate Actions in the 2020s at COP26, reaffirming the target of holding the global average temperature rise well below 2 degrees Celsius and pursuing efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius, and pledging to continue working together and with all parties to strengthen implementation of the Paris Agreement. On the basis of principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capacities, as well as taking into account respective national conditions, both countries will take enhanced climate action to effectively address the climate crisis. The two sides decided to make concrete actions and cooperation on reducing electricity waste, coal consumption, methane emissions, and eliminate illegal deforestation. China will develop its own national action plan on methane. The two sides also agreed to establish a working group on enhancing climate action in the 2020s. The joint declaration is a significant move to promote cooperation on climate change between two countries and the multiple process. China and US subnational cooperation can play an important role in promoting climate change cooperation between two countries. China and the state of California established a clean technology partnership and carried out good cooperation in areas such as climate change and clean energy. In May this year, a series of subnational dialogues on climate change between China and the United States were held online, setting up platforms for two countries' local governments to join hands in addressing climate change by sharing experiences and promoting cooperation. The South Coast Air Quality Management District is engaging with the Chinese side to explore opportunities of cooperation in environmental protection and pollution control and prevention in relation to maritime transportation. Under the framework of C40 Cities Climate Leadership Alliance, China, Guangzhou, and other Chinese cities have participated in discussion with Los Angeles and other international cities on tackling climate change and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. China-US climate change cooperation cannot stand alone without a sound and stable China-US relationship. It needs a good conditions and right atmosphere. Currently, China-US relationship is going through some serious difficulties, which does not serve the fundamental interests of the two countries and peoples. Not long ago, President Xi and President Biden held a virtual meeting. They have agreed that China and the United States should respect each other, coexist in peace, increase communication, handle differences constructively, prevent conflict, and strengthen cooperation. They also expressed their opposition to a new Cold War between China and the United States. The meeting between the two heads of states provide direction and guidance for our relations and sends a powerful message to both countries and the world as well. At this critical juncture, when China and the United States are trying to find the right way to get along with each other in the new era, it is important that our two countries work together to enhance exchanges and cooperation, jointly address regional and international issues, as well as global challenges. And in the meantime, properly manage differences to avoid confrontation and conflict, so as to bring China-US relations back to the right track of sound and steady development. Economic and trade cooperation has always been the anchor and propeller of China-US relations, playing an important role in the healthy and stable development of the bilateral relations and bringing tangible benefits to our two peoples. Last year, the United States was China's third largest trade partner in goods, the largest export market, and sixth largest source of imports, and China's second largest service trade partner, second largest service export market, and source of imports. This year so far, the bilateral trade volume between the two countries have reached approximately $700 billion, and the accumulated two-way investment has exceeded $250 billion. According to the 2021 District Export Report recently released by US-China Business Council, the total US goods export to China in 2020 reached $123.1 billion, up by nearly 18%, while US export to other parts of the world dropped by 15% last year. China's economic growth has not only greatly boosted US exports, but also supported nearly 1 million American jobs. China has been California's largest trading partner and largest source of imports. California is the US state that has the largest amount of investment from China, with the total amount of $36.79 billion by the end of 2020, creating more than 22,000 American jobs. A large percentage of cargo volumes handled by the Port of Long Beach and Port of Los Angeles is related to China trade. Meanwhile, it should be pointed out that there are still difficulties and obstacles in our economic and trade relations. The additional tariffs imposed on Chinese products by the previous administration have not been abolished, which harms the interests of not only Chinese manufacturers and exporters, but mostly the US importers and consumers. Figures show that 92% of the increased tariffs are taken up by the US downstream enterprises and consumers. In addition, the US continue to suppress and sanction Chinese companies on the grounds of so-called national security. At present, more than 900 Chinese entities and individuals have been put on different kinds of sanction lists, and more Chinese companies and some products have been banned from entering US market, including the product for climate change control, the solar panels produced in Xinjiang. Such trend, if not stopped, will inevitably cause serious damage to China-US economic and trade cooperation. China-US economic and trade ties are win-win in nature. Trade issues should not be politicized. Decoupling and building walls would only undermine global industrial chains and supply chains and damage our cooperation in common interests. We called for early abolition of the additional tariffs. China is fostering a new development paradigm with domestic circulation as the mainstay and domestic and international circulations reinforcing each other and promoting high quality development. It is estimated that China will import $2.5 trillion worth of goods and services annually in the coming 15 years. Its middle income group will expand to 800 million by 2035. Looking into the future, China is set to become the biggest consumer market in the world. Last month, the Chinese Communist Party held its 6th plenary session of the 19th Central Committee. It comprehensively reviewed the major achievements and historical experience of the CPC in the past 100 years. As reiterated by the 6th plenary session, China will continue to comprehensively deepen reform and opening up. We will further shorten the negative list on foreign investment access, enable all-round opening up of agriculture and manufacturing, open the telecommunications, health care, and other service sectors wider, and implement an active list for cross-border service trade nationwide. We'll advance trade and investment liberalization and facilitation, and we will take an active and open attitude in negotiations on digital economy, trade and the environment, industrial subsidies, and state-owned enterprises. We have full confidence that under the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, China will march firmly toward the goal of Chinese nation's rejuvenation. China's economy will continue to grow, and it will continue to push forward reform and opening up. The development of China will provide more opportunities to other countries, including the United States. We welcome American companies to come on board and share the dividends of Chinese development. Before I conclude, I wish to extend my season's greeting to everyone and express my sincere thanks to LBQA for many good jobs that you have done over the years in promoting friendship and cooperation between the two cities of Long Beach and Qingdao. The strong and robust sister city relationship, as well as the close partnership between the two cities' ports, have set a good example of China-US subnational exchange and cooperation. I hope our friends, including those from the business community, will continue to play an active role to support a better China-US relationship and make great contributions to it. We look forward to working with you. Thank you so much. So nice to see our friends through the video screen.
Ambassador Zhang, thank you so much for addressing so much. I'm sorry that time has been constrained. I wanted to ask, do you have time for one or two questions?
Sure, okay.
That's great, thank you. And one of the things that you did beautifully was to tie our opening presentations together with your keynote address. So we began by looking at the container ships still off the coast of Long Beach and the progress that's been made in reducing that. And we came to what you referred to as a transferal of emissions responsibility, that Americans as consumers are relying on emissions that originate in China. And so you've highlighted that kind of connection. And that's really welcome, the way that you tied all of this together with the role of business and others. I wanted to ask, if I could, a question about you and about Chinese diplomats in general. You highlighted the two presidents meeting via video chat, the chief climate representatives, John Kerry and Xie Jianhua, meeting in person in several locations, the recent joint pledge, all of those sorts of things. And so you highlighted that. And so that's action at the top, at the very top. But for these things to be realized, a lot of other players have to be involved. And we've met some of them in today's conference, the Ship and Shore and other entities. I'd like to ask about the role of diplomats, and particularly Chinese diplomats. How big a part of your performance review, how will you and your colleagues be judged? You have so many things that you are expected to address. Where is climate change on that list? What's ahead of it? What may rank a little bit lower?
Well, that's a good question. And obviously, you're right. I think as a diplomat, I mean, representing the country's government, obviously, we have lots of responsibilities. However, I think the overall responsibility is to maintain a good relationship on different levels and promote exchange and cooperation. Right now, we think climate change cooperation between two countries, as I said, is a good positive asset for China-US relations. And obviously, I think this is the thing that we want to promote in general. Yeah, and I think the current China-US relationship very much needs some positive energies and positive outcomes. So I think, and also I think apart from the bilateral relationship perspective, obviously I think climate change is a global issue. I mean, as China and United States, the two countries face major international responsibilities. So I think on many reasons, China and United States should work together. Of course, as I've said, this climate change cooperation cannot be separated away from the overall bilateral relationships atmosphere. So, so that gave us a lot of work to do here as a diplomat. We try to communicate our friends, to let our friends know China's policies on different issues and our positions. And we are also involved on many specific issues. So, of course, we are not the specific implementers. However, we try to build up a bridge, for specific corporations, especially, for instance, on the climate change cooperation. And we try to relay the message back and try to give our advice. So I think, generally speaking, we try to play the role to promote and facilitate. So we welcome our friends for whatever reason, for whatever purpose, or for whatever projects that you want to do with China. Perhaps we can be an organization that can rely for some kind of help or advice. So I think this is the major role we play as a consulate. We try to promote cooperation and friendship.
And you have an unusual set of experiences. You were ambassador to Fiji, an island nation which is more threatened than many by climate change. And so you discussed, for example, the middle place that China occupies as, of course, on one level, a very advanced country in terms of technology, economic output, and these sorts of things, but on a per capita income level, not being as wealthy as the developed world, right? And so you've highlighted that and talked about China's commitments with regard to not building Belt and Road coal-fired plants and these potentially harmful initiatives. Can you say more about efforts at building climate-friendly infrastructure?
Yeah, well, you mentioned my term in Fiji, and actually, when I was in Fiji, the Fiji government was just working on COP maybe 24, I think. They were the kind of host country for COP 24 when I was there. So obviously, I think developing countries, especially the island countries, care so much about the rising sea level, the increase of the global temperature in association with the climate change crisis. So I think, of course, they very much want other countries in the world, especially the developed countries, to provide more help, especially in terms of the financing and technologies. So I think this is also one of the reasons that we initiated the Belt and Road Initiative. I think in essence, the developing countries, especially those island countries, if they want to be stronger to resist the climate change crisis, the fundamental thing is to build up their capacities in many ways. Yeah, so I think we should lend, say, more hands to the developed countries by helping them to say improve their infrastructure. Yeah, and I think Belt and Road can serve that purpose. And I think while we advancing the Belt and Road Initiative, and we pay very much attention to their needs, and we also engaged in very extensive consultations with the government, and we also put into consideration the environmental, say, factors. For instance, when we build railways, yeah, in Africa, yeah, in consideration of the migration of the wild animals, and usually these railways are elevated, put on the say bridges. So I think that provides some kind of access for the movement of the wildlife. And also, I think we also try to do our best, yeah, to put into, to do the environmental assessments. So I think this is a thing we try to manage very carefully, yeah. And as I said, I think development is the priority for many developing countries. So we think to do some actual work is better than empty talks, or simply put some sort of high requirements, yeah, on the environmental protection. It's better to do things first.
Ambassador Zhang, thank you so much. We know that you have a lot of other responsibilities to attend to today, and we're grateful. I want to ask everybody on the who's part of the conference to put their hands together as a way of expressing appreciation for Ambassador Zhang's keynote address and his follow-up responses to the questions. Ambassador Zhang, I look forward to talking with you again sometime soon. I'd like to take on some of the sticky points. Fear brought the United States and China together, fear of the Soviet Union, hope about economic exchange and other kinds of exchanges help to hold us together. And I'd like to, at some future date, explore with you what worries and what aims might keep us joined. Certainly battling climate change is one of those. Sure. And we are really grateful to you for joining us today and to the Long Beach Qingdao Association for bringing this all together. And I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to the leaders of the association. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Clayton. And also thank you, Consul General Zhang, for your presentation. And we also want to echo your kind suggestion that we have happy holidays. We wish the same for you and your family and all the staff at the consulate. We always enjoy our interaction. We have been disappointed that we have not been able to meet in person, but hopefully 2022, next year, we'll have that opportunity to celebrate Chinese New Year's and some of the other events that we've enjoyed with the consulate. So again, and I echo and congratulate Mr. Doobie and appreciate his input here, and mentioning that our relationship with the Chinese people and with the city of Qingdao is very important. We want to continue to keep the lines of communication open. Very, very helpful for us to always talk about issues like this. And we have engaged on some good issues over the last several years. So anyways, many thanks again, Consul General.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Professor. Look forward to seeing you again.
I think we're going to, I know that Councilor Jonah has to go on with his activities. We may take another question or two, Clayton, from the audience. I understand we have a few, and I don't know if all of our speakers are still here. There is one for our CEO from the Ship and Shore. Is she still here?
Yes, I hope she's able to hear from Mary Barton. And on my screen, Mary and Anush are right next to each other, but we have to rely on the network to bring us together. And so we're hoping that we could learn a little bit more about the cities in China that Ship and Shore is working with. Where are they? We know that they've been there now for 5 or more years, forging partnerships. Yeah, we may have to call again for an answer to that question. And we want to thank everybody who has joined us today for participating. David, back to you.
Thank you. I think we want to have some concluding remarks from our president, Susan Redfield. Susan, are you still there? We may have lost everybody. Oh,
Well,
God.
we're between them and lunch.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wendy, oh, there she is. Okay.
can you hear
Hi.
me, David?
Yes, Susan. Hi. Hi.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for coming back. And do you have
Of
any,
course.
I'm sure you have some thoughts to share with us. So
Yes, what a wonderful program this was. Thank you so much, David. And let me first thank the entire Long Beach Qingdao Association team publicly. David, of course, Ann Huser, Eduardo Vargas, Haley Fulcomer, and Wendy Chowle. And I would also like to, at this time, introduce Wendy Chowle as the Vice President of the Sister Cities, Inc. That's the representative organization of all the sister cities in Long Beach. Wendy, could you say a few words, please?
Sure. Thank you, Susan. And thanks to everyone that chose to stick around with us. Very brief, and I am a direct beneficiary of the increasing numbers of gray hair due to the recent port congestion and other logistics issues that are not related to the port. And so I was particularly invested in today's topic. But on behalf of the sister cities of Long Beach, I did want to thank the Qingdao Committee for leading the conversations on this report card 5 years later, highlighting environmental initiatives and progress in the cities of Long Beach and Qingdao. And this is a very important concern for all citizens of this earth. And perhaps we can expand this conversation with our 8 sister cities, many of whom are also looking at what we need to be doing in their respective regions. Together, we can and we must heal this earth for the sake of our future generations. So with that, I have the distinct honor to conclude our program today, and thank you all for attending. And in a different time, we would be delighted to meet up, and maybe we should do that. Email us if you have something that you want to continue this conversation. We'll have all the program on the website very shortly. Look for it tomorrow. But email us at longbeachqingdao@gmail.com, and let's sync up and further this conversation. Thank you all for joining us.
thank you, Wendy.